Hello and welcome to this edition of DeFacto Review, a weekly roundup of the biggest stories shaping Mongolia this week. I'm Terrence Edwards, and with me tonight is Jargal DeFacto. We're live on Facebook at VTelevision. You can also follow the conversation on Twitter with hashtag DeFacto. Tweet us your views and we hope to bring them in. Tonight on the program. Thank you for watching. After weeks of delay, the Vice Minister of Mining has been selected as the next director of Erdenet Mining Corporation. Hey Batumsurin is a former MP and has served as an advisor to the Mongolian People's Party since 2014. His appointment by Erdnet's board comes after weeks of gridlock on the decision. For example, one nominee was rejected because of his close associations to Trade and Development Bank, which has some connection to the private company Mongolian Copper Corporation that now owns 49% of Erdenet. So, to start, Jargal, can you give us some details on this new director, Batumsurin?
Mr. Batumsurin used to work. He is a mining engineer. He had been working in mining businesses for quite some time, except 4 years period of his being when he was a parliament member at the previous government. Parliament. He was a parliament member. He was a head of Rosstsvetmet, which also now belongs to this Mongolian Copper Corporation.
Okay, so they took in all of that.
Yes, you know, the fact that Mongolians bought from Russia 49% of Erdenet, like becoming a history nowadays, though there was some working committee of the working group from the committee of the parliament to investigate what exactly had happened. But the concern was not it is now in Mongolian hand fully, but the concern was how transparent was that government decisions involving obviously everybody, high-ranking all Mongolian officials during the previous administration. So it looks like that is becoming a history. We don't know what's happening now. But today, when it comes to executive power of the Erdenet Mining Corporation, the 49% owner Mongolian Copper had requested, they sent a letter to the partner, 51% owner, or the Mongolian
the majority
government.
Owner.
They said, okay, if we nominate board chair, then you nominate executive director, CEO, or vice versa. That was the proposal for making more efficient the management of Erdenet Mining Corporation.
So each stakeholder would have some kind of decision
That
to make
was
at
the
top
proposal,
leadership.
but unfortunately it had not happened. And now the chairman of the Erdenet Mining Corporation is a deputy head of Mongolian cabinet. He is the level of deputy minister level, Mr. Batumsurin. He became a chair of the Erdenet Mining Corporation, and yet the Mongolian government had nominated that Mr. Batumsurin as a CEO of the Erdenet Mining Corporation, which basically says that all power is now in the hand of the government again. So now the issue is, will that mismanagement, very typical to this state-owned enterprises, will continue or not? The Mongolians, when they talk about the Erdenet Mining Corporation, we have been dealing with a lot of mismanagement from the CEO. It's number 7th is coming now in the history of Erdenet. And like any other state-owned enterprises in Mongolia, it's practically owned by the political party who is winning the election. And somehow they were always supporting their political party leaders. There are several occasions They have been raising some issues, even filed some court issue, but as usual, it has slowly disappeared. Another concern is with this new CEO, we expect there will be less insider trading of the company with our public money, because many politicians in Mongolia used to supply all kind of stuff, whether Erdenet needs or not.
Unfortunately, the company does have a bad reputation for corruption.
In that, this is even, they have been selling to Erdenet so many used and not used stuff, and people became even rich just selling through the insider trading, and even a couple of times their storage was on fire. And I mean, it is on purpose or not, it's very question, but this is the way how the Erdenet Mining Corporation was managed before. And hopefully this new CEO, Mr. Batumsren, will continue some effort made by the previous CEO, Mr. Davatsren, from Democratic Party nominated. He had started certain steps towards decreasing this sort of possibly corruption-related transactions in the company. So it was becoming more or less clear and clean a bit. But we hope that with this new one, it will go on.
I think what might be interesting is Erdenet Mining Corporation could become a sort of bellwether for corruption in the country, because it's such an ingrained institution with the government. If it went forward with more profits, I think you could come to the conclusion that there has been a successful crackdown on corruption in the country.
Yes, that's what we are expecting. In general, Erdenet and Erdenet size or similar large state-owned enterprises management was the key indicators for Mongolian corruption indexes. So it's a key for Mongolia, in particular at the time when Mongolia credit rating is downgraded. We need more professional managers coming to state-owned enterprises.
I'd like you to expand on the fact that there was so long debate on this appointment. You know, the Democrats have always been kind of debilitated by their factions and in-party fighting. Are we seeing cracks within the Mongolian People's Party's ranks now?
In a way, you can say that, because there is a lot of contradictions among the ruling party, not only on the issue of Erdenet, on many other issues, not like clear like Democratic Party fractions, but still there is a certain controversies among them. So let's see what will happen.
Next, an economic clash at the border. The Oyo-Tolga copper mine has suspended shipments at a Mongolia-Chinese land port in response to new requirements by the Chinese officials that has led to safety concerns, a day after China imposed new fees on shipments of key commodities, coal and copper. The copper miner is seeking further clarification from Chinese officials, who are now requiring shipments on a joint coal and concentrate route. The timing of the new regulations and the new fees has led many to believe these are veiled sanctions by the Chinese government in response to the visit by the Dalai Lama in Mongolia. China sees the religious leader, who is hugely popular among Mongolians, as a rebel separatist for Tibet. So can you just give a quick rundown on these new fees?
Okay. Though our foreign minister said that their actions to increase fees at the border was made before Dalai Lama came to Mongolia, but what is clear is if it was so like this, but they have increased the level of fee twice, as was the draft before. Like, for example, they will now charge for copper concentrate 10 yuan instead of 5. It says from 1 ka, the fee will be 10 yuan. Okay?
Yes.
Per coal, It was per ton 5 yuan before, now it's 8 yuan. And from the copper concentrate, it will be 5 yuan before, but now it's 2% of the total value. In that way, approximately 10 to 12 million US dollars will be paid as a fee at the border. Now the question is, what's happening? Now it's a work of our Minister of Foreign Affairs to go and to talk to China, whether it is unilaterally implemented this fee only for Mongolians at the border with Mongolia, or on the other border as well for the same goods. If it is different, then why and when it will be finished? Because we are both WTO member countries.
Yes.
And we should help to have a free trading more or less, not increasing. Though by our obligations, we should not increase the tariff.
Yeah.
But it does not stop to increase fees. So under the name of fees, it's almost kind of big barrier for trading. That's one of the reasons why OT had stopped their concentrate transportation to the border, through the border, because it completely changed their economics, their model of the cost. So that's why the Turquoise Hill Resources had announced that they will terminate or postpone, delay for uncertain period all this their transit. So it's very bad news for the economy at this time when we are downgraded. Now we have more fees at the Chinese border. Now the Oyu Tolga, the only working and functioning industry, is not selling anymore. That's very bad news.
Yeah, for me, when it comes to the timing, a lot of people discounted the Chinese government punishing Mongolia because there was an earlier announcement on November 8th that the fees would come in. Now, I think people shouldn't discount Chinese intelligence. Who knows how long the Dalai Lama had made plans to come to Mongolia, and if it had come as early as October, I'm sure China would have known about it. So we can speculate that this came too early, but I wouldn't discount the fact that China is reacting to that visit.
In a way, I think there is certain power that can impact on that date. And so, I mean, whatever happened, happened. Now, the situation is like this.
Yeah.
Trade is becoming more expensive with China by any cost. So we have to approach in a new way, because, I mean, can you deal with your smaller neighbor, which is landlocked, through the way what the China is doing now? So we will now more ask the Minister of Foreign Affairs to act more properly and appropriately. The other thing was the copper concentrate and the coal has separate gates to the border.
Yes.
Now they suggest to go with the coal,
which is huge traffic.
22 kilometers traffic jam. Yeah. The world's longest traffic jam, as it was mocked on social media these days. So it's in fact very long, 100 tons tracks line that goes 20 kilometers.
Yeah.
So it shows how efficient is that border, the border port. And if it is international port, then it will be different standard. But in spite of our request to make that border international, on Chinese side things go a little bit slow. So, but nevertheless, this is the main gate of Mongolian export. Unfortunately, that's the situation now we have seen from last week.
And very quickly, you said there has to be some talks between the foreign minister and China, but it looks like that can't be possible this year since some meetings have been canceled.
Many meetings have been canceled, including even some education ministry visits. Nowadays, I learned, along with the 6 other visits, high-ranking visits, including the negotiations of the possibly large sum of foreign debt to Mongolia from China. So all things is postponed. We have to face new reality. But you know what? It shows that how Mongolia must be urgent in making our economy diversified, not necessarily depending on our 2 neighbors. We should address the world market, find a way to have the access to this with our product services to the world market. This is the urgency, and the bell is ringing for Mongolians that it is a time to go faster. And yet we are in economic crisis.
Yeah. Next, a look into a former politician already receiving much scrutiny. A series of arrests surrounding former Prime Minister Norov Altankhuyag has threatened his bid for the presidency in 2017. A former advisor to Altankhuyag and his son-in-law are already in jail. Meanwhile, a number of investigations have been opened into family members and travel bans have been put in place. Altankhuyag and other critics have called the investigations politically motivated. The Democrats have released a statement, and I'm quoting, "We will not just sit and watch. If things keep happening, we will take drastic steps and choose severe methods of fighting at such illegal attempts." So, can you give us another rundown of exactly who's been arrested and what these investigations might be revolving around?
Well, it's a long story. Mr. Altankhuyag, former Prime Minister, his son-in-law, was given a huge sum state tender. Several billions of dollars state tender.
Billions of dollars.
Yes, and then he's now turned out a sister and then another relatives. They have been investigated by misconduct of state procurement. So now he was called for that, but those people arrested before, and his wife has now no travel right. She's staying in the country, now cannot travel. So he came to the anti-corruption agency and said that why you had to arrest so many women before just calling me just to talk. And what we know now, other information was he had forgotten to include 7-floor building that he owns into his income statement. If it is true, you know,
he forgot or he forgot.
So this is one case. The other thing is he was making very sharp critiques and statement against President Ilbegdorj.
Okay.
And he said that if you are not with Ilbegdorj, then you are in the prison. Kind of, this sort of strong statement.
So he feels persecuted by the president?
Yes, he said exactly these words. So I think that it's a time, I expect Mr. President will go out and make a statement about this kind of allegations on his side. But the other warning thing is very strong statement by the Democratic Party. Democratic Party made a statement that the sort of arrests, harassments are not in the value we have in the country. And because somebody's political ambitions, you cannot arrest relatives, family members like this. And it reminds our dark days, you know, in the 30s, when the Mongolians, intelligent people were arrested just because they had different views. So it's very strong statement came out from the Democratic Party on that occasions. And Democratic Party is is organizing their long-awaited Congress next week, and they will now select or elect a new chairman of their party, and they have several fractions. Each fractions had suggested their own candidate. But to me, Democratic Party as an institution is not based on internal democracy. Decisions are not made by majority of the group people, and there is no clear statement where the money comes from, how the money was used. Without this sort of principled decisions, whoever comes as a head of the Democratic Party doesn't help much the party and Mongolia as well, because this is the second largest now ruling party out of basically two ruling parties, as you know. So Mongolians are expecting from Democratic Party, as usual, more clear advancement in making political parties more transparent, If it is not happening, we are not happy. And plus, also the Mongolian public would like to see the next runner for president from the two ruling parties who has seats in the parliament. They organize their own primary based on competition of certain candidates, several candidates inside, like in the US.
This is closed within the party. The voters don't have access to this choice, do they?
Yes, but however, what the people want to see that they do announce the primary, which will be elected not only by their members but also their supporters. Whoever is receiving the largest amount of support and votes, they should go run for president.
So you're saying because Norov Altankhuyag did not win his seat back last election, for him to be chosen as the president nominee, that would be sort of not going with the will of the people?
He was at least said himself that he will run for the presidency. And obviously not only him. So we want to see Democratic Party having a primary among their candidates to be a nominee of their party for the president of the country for the next election.
And looking at Altankhuyag specifically with these allegations, do you think this is going to hurt his reputation in the eyes of the voters? Will they see him as a crook?
Of his reputation?
Yes, Altankhuyag's.
Well, this is not the first statement by high-ranking officials in Mongolia, because first they do something wrong, or at least be conflict of interests, then any kind of persecution or following after that wrongdoing, they immediately find it's politically motivated. That shows that how not clear is the judicial system, how not clear is the security, the power agencies under the control of president, actually. Now he nominates the heads of these organizations. How clear or how not clear are their functions nowadays? So it's a big worry. It's quite much reminds me what is happening, for example, in Indonesia. Very well-spoken president, but not clear action, and big conflicts of interests, big corruption cases are staying, sometimes go up to the surface, then sometimes goes down.
Yeah.
So it shows how deep is the corruption roots in our society, and how much control those cases by political powers, elites, they can negotiate in terms and conditions of continuation of those files, court cases, unfortunately. And this is not only in Mongolia, in many countries, mining-rich countries where poor governance is happening.
Well, even the United States has a problem with
in general,
conflicts of interest with President-elect Donald Trump in all his businesses all around the world.
See, that's why the issue of good governance is a universal issue, not depending on the level of development or per capita income. But it is an issue that will play the pivotal role in the future of Mongolia in this young democracy. If we don't win now these corruption cases in the right way, in the favor of the people, in the favor of the truth, then the country may have even worse situation than this current economic situation.
We close our show with business. One of Mongolia's earliest foreign invested companies in real estate has announced plans to list on an alternate exchange to the London Stock Exchange. Asia Pacific Investment Partners, or APIP, says it intends to list shares on the LSE's AIM exchange in the coming weeks after 15 years of operation in Mongolia. The chief executive of APIP, Lee Cashel, said the real estate and research company is now well positioned to capitalize on the strong growth opportunities of the Mongolian economy. APIP is the parent company of Mongolian Properties Construction, and Central Asian Cement, among others. It is the owner of the Regency Residence, the Nukt Village, as well as the Olympic and Circus projects. So this will be the first public offering in a while for a Mongolian asset. I believe the first since the Mongol Post listed on the Mongolian Stock Exchange. So what's the importance of Mongolian companies listing on any exchange, but also abroad?
If listed as they're planning, and I understand now they are completing their roadshow in major capital cities, New York, London, and I think Hong Kong. If their roadshow is successful, they know the appetite now that they can propose certain price level, and everything goes well. It's a London Stock Exchange, AIM exchange is a good one for mid-sized, smaller-sized companies. And that will be very good signal to investors about Mongolia. At least a company is there, investors are buying. That means they believe in the future of Mongolia, in making better the governance, making better the conditions in the country. That's, I think, very good news if it goes successfully on that. So we wait for that. And it is good also because, you know, we have been receiving always almost negative news from, in particular, agencies, the rating agencies. Moody's had a downgrade Mongolia on November 18th, a half month ago, from B3 to CAA1, which is more from speculative to highly risk.
Yeah, it
ranking.
fell down a notch.
A notch, yes, and but that notch was to different category,
yeah,
which is a big concern. And most importantly, also they said their ranking, their rating will be stable for the next 2 years, because in the next 2 years, whatever happening up and down for the rating will be generally balance each other. So the situation will be stably, or they will be stable and not so good.
Yeah,
that's the concern. So we congratulate APIP for that strong move, and we wish them to be successful on that IPO offering.
Quickly, before we close out the show, there has been some rebound in the mining industry. Do you see a correlation between mining in Mongolia and the real estate market?
In a way, yes. Because real estate is coming dependent on the major driver of the economy in each country. Major driver of Mongolian economy is mining, and it will be for quite some time. So depending on the mining news and market sense, real estate market will depend on that. And plus, I think during all these boom years, a lot of money came to the society, to the country anyway, and they are being now distributed through real estates. And it will go on, I think, quite for some time.
Okay, well, I think we'll close on that note. We hope our reports this evening will give you a leg up as you join the new work week. Any final thoughts?
Thank you very much for watching us, and also those who are watching from abroad through our Facebook live stream. And you can also visit our website tomorrow, jargaldefacto.com, to rewatch the program, and please communicate with us with your comments. Thank you very much for having us tonight.
And Jargal, we have actually another minute. Do you think the Facebook live feed has been helping broaden our audience?
Oh yes, it is. Overall, some 20,000 people on the average watching, but out of them, 10% of them are watching from completely. That's a good sign, and plus, you know, Mongolia is one of the countries, strange countries, where say 100,000 Mongolians are living abroad. It's quite a big amount, 3% of the nation. So for those, it's a key to, I think, have information from independent sources like us, which don't belong to any political power, and which are trying to be that independent voice of Mongolia.
Okay, well, thank you for that. Good night, Ulaanbaatar.
Good night.